A haunting discovery in New Britain.
There was human remains right across the street from where me and my kids live.
Shocking details uncovered.
It's heartbreaking. It's a little girl.
An 11-year-old girl gone.
The victim of prolonged physical abuse and malnourishment.
Left to starve to death, missing for a year. The girl's own mother arrested. Charged with murder, along with her now ex-boyfriend. The victim's aunt also accused.
What goes through your heart as a family member?
Disgusted. Disgusted.
Now, a WFSB Plus exclusive. Little girl lost. What happened to Jacqueline Torres-Garcia? Thanks for joining us. I'm Kara Sundlin. We're taking a closer look at a murder and child abuse case that is gut-wrenching to even think about. A little girl lost, unaccounted for, dead for a year, her body concealed until her remains were found dumped in New Britain. Her own mother is charged, along with her aunt and her mother's boyfriend. In this WFSB Plus exclusive, we take you through the hours and days as police from several communities in Connecticut worked fast to find some answers. October 8th, 2025. A gruesome discovery in the backyard of a boarded-up house on Clark Street in New Britain. What appeared to be human remains hidden in a plastic container.
It's very unsettling and very nerve-wracking.
And even worse, the remains believed to be that of a little girl. A memorial would start to grow.
It's heartbreaking. It's a little girl. Like, she didn't deserve that.
The community left horrified with many questions. Who was this girl? Who was to blame? The night of October 8th, just hours after the remains were found, a large, angry crowd gathered on nearby Tremont Street. Channel 3 captured this exclusive video. Carla Garcia, handcuffed and taken into police custody. You can hear a voice calling out a haunting question.
Where's the girl?
Where's the girl? Once at New Britain Police Headquarters, a camera in the lobby captures the conversation between Garcia and the officers.
The whole family just showed up on Tremont Street. The 25.
I pulled over so the officer could get me because they're chasing me with guns.
Yeah.
So I pulled over. I'm going there. It's my safest spot. They've been chasing me for like a whole hour. These dumbass kids, bro. Like,
what'd you do to them?
No, what they do to me.
Oh, I don't know.
Like, but you better go get.
Garcia told officers she did not feel safe and wanted to stay there with police.
You don't have to leave here, but I just want to make you aware that you're not under arrest.
I know I'm not under arrest because I didn't do nothing.
Exactly.
Officer.
Okay. I just want to make it clear.
I'm being honest with you.
Okay, thank you.
Because if I did, I would tell you. I really don't care. I'm ready for anything.
We would like to talk to you.
I'm ready to talk.
Attention then turned to Carla's children.
I have kids. I have 5 kids.
5 kids. All ages? How's the oldest?
12.
12 oldest.
Because Nina is 11, I think.
Who's 12?
Jackie.
Jackie is her daughter, Jacqueline Torres-Garcia, also known as Mimi, who would have turned 12 months earlier in January. But evidence would show she died before that, while living in Farmington, and it was Jacqueline's remains in that container at her old house. On October 13th, only 5 days after this investigation began, officials from multiple agencies, including Farmington and New Britain Police, share some shocking news.
Evidence indicates that Jacqueline was the victim of prolonged physical abuse and malnourishment prior to her death. It is also believed that following her death, Jacqueline's body was kept in the family's basement and subsequently moved when the family relocated from Farmington in March of 2025.
3 people were quickly charged. Police body cam video catching the arrest of Mimi's own mother, Carla, and Carla's sister, Jacqueline Garcia.
Turn around.
Why?
Put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest.
For what?
And Carla's now ex-boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita. who was finally tracked down in Waterbury.
He's got a gun? Get hands! Get your hands!
Why'd you guys kick me and why'd you guys beat me up? I was gonna turn myself in. I didn't have to do that.
Turn yourself in.
You guys didn't have to do any of that.
Should turn yourself in a while ago.
I was gonna say I was. You guys didn't have to do any of that, man. I didn't even do that to that girl, bro. I didn't. I'm over here trying to clear my name.
October 14th, just 6 days after Mimi's remains were found dumped, the three stood there before a judge, Nanita and Carla, charged with murder, Jacqueline with child cruelty. The young victim's biological father, Victor Torres, was too stunned to speak. What we learned from the warrants would be unsettling beyond words. Carla claiming she was forced by Nanita to withhold food from Jacqueline, admitting they stopped giving Jacqueline food for about 2 weeks prior to her death, and telling police they starved her because Jacqueline was bad. She didn't listen. She didn't respect them. Meanwhile, Carla's sister admitted to taking and sharing a photograph of her niece zip-tied on a urination pad. And Jacqueline Garcia told police when she left the residence in mid-August, she knew Jacqueline was going to die. Carla and Nanita both blamed each other for little Mimi's death, and their stories kept changing. Ultimately, Nanita was hit with additional charges, tampering with evidence and improper disposal of a body. Just like Carla, police concluding and Nanita's arrest warrant talking about Mimi, Jonathan then concealed her body in her own bedding, placed it into trash bags, and eventually the plastic tote bin. When the smell became too bad, he moved this tote bin with him in his Acura to his new residence on Tremont Street, to Clark Street, where he abandoned it in the woodline. Jacqueline's official cause of death would be fatal child abuse with starvation. And the fact that investigators believed the little girl had died more than a year earlier in Farmington was chilling for the Farmington Police Department. Officers had responded to multiple noise complaints at that Wellington Drive apartment where a pregnant Carla and Nanita lived with their children in the second half of 2024. This is body camera video from December 29th, 2024.
Is everything okay?
Yeah,
We got a call. There's a lot of noise coming from your apartment.
they're always called.
Okay.
Everything's good though.
Everyone's all right?
Yes.
Is anyone else home with you?
Just the babies and my boyfriend.
Nanita seen holding the couple's young daughter.
We just got a call. There's a lot of noises and stuff like that. Everyone's okay?
Yeah, it's, my wife's pregnant, so she just be having mood swings. And
Okay.
I be trying to calm her down.
Okay. Things happen.
I'm at the end, so
Okay.
it's difficult.
Sometimes the walls are, you live in apartments, walls
Yeah,
are
we
thin
always get
sometimes.
complaints. They ain't been big complaints since we first moved here, so
Okay, so it's not the
We're
first.
planning on moving.
Okay.
we're actually moving.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, because of that.
You guys got a place you're going to?
Yeah,
Yeah, all right. Where you guys going to?
we're gonna move to New Britain.
Yeah.
Just better. Well, we came from New Britain. It's better over there because we don't have no complaints at all.
Sadly, investigators now believe little Mimi had been dead for months at the time of this interaction, her body decaying in the basement.
Is this your only daughter? You guys got
Oh, sorry.
One on the way. I have a son.
Son too.
He's 1. Well, he just turned 2. I'm sorry.
Keep you guys busy.
Oh yeah.
Joining me now to discuss the investigation further is our WFSB law enforcement analyst, retired Hartford Police Chief of Detectives Brian Foley, and our WFSB Chief Investigative Reporter Sam Smink, who actually obtained and dug through all of that police body camera you just watched, the videos, the warrants, and all of the information related to this horrific case. I want to start with you, Brian, about as we see something like this and you're seeing police officers in that home and now looking back that likely the body was decaying and they had been there multiple times. What does that do to the officers, and does it mean they missed something?
I'm sure the officers feel bad knowing that they were there and the body was down there in the basement. What strikes me is the odor you know, I've been around hundreds of decaying bodies. The odor is significant and unique, and you wonder what that house, the apartment, would have smelled like at that point, and would it be enough to spark any additional curiosities in the officers? Obviously not. I've watched that video several times. I think the officers did what they were supposed to do within that situation.
And Sam, as you dug through all of that body camera, I mean, it's unusual to see just how much information we have leading up to the arrest and then after.
Absolutely, and it's worth noting with the Farmington police visits, they had gotten 4 different calls, but they only actually made contact with the family in that body camera you see. The other times they would knock, they said nobody answered or nobody was home. So although they altogether had 4 calls, they only actually made contact with them back in December.
Does anyone know what the noises were? Like, could it have been Jacqueline screaming, or was it just them fighting?
So the neighbor, it seemed to be the neighbor that shared the wall with them who would often call, and I went through the different police reports, and it always resulted in somebody screaming. There was a call 9 days after the date of which police believe Jacqueline had died, that a neighbor heard somebody scream that, "I'm gonna wring your neck," but it always sounded like at least Carla was involved in this screaming. And other times it sounded like somebody fell. So there was a call in September 2024, shortly after when they believed Jacqueline may have died based on what Carla herself did tell her sister. And that was Jacqueline Garcia claims that her sister told her that Jacqueline was killed on September 19th, 2024. So Farmington police got a call after that. They got a call in December. They actually got 2 calls in December, and then they got another call in February.
I know we've spoken to different officers, and the chief has said it's very difficult, you know, for the officers to think that maybe this was going on, and they were not able to know that at the time. As you look at this investigation right now, in all the cases that you've investigated, it seems like there's so much. Is this a case that is easy to stitch together based on all of the pictures and the video and the comments?
Yeah, I think, you know, the number of suspects here was narrowed down very, very quickly. In these types of cases, especially starvation, obviously it's going to come down to the parents and who had exposure to the kids. We do see these starvation homicides, not a lot, but we have seen them before. And we've investigated them in Hartford. They're very sad, but I can tell you this: the detectives that are involved in this, the lead detective from Farmington McEwen, he's coming up on 40 years of police experience, most of that in West Hartford. I worked with him, the Farmington police chief. These are, again, West Hartford guys that did a lot of homicide investigations themselves or were involved with them. So they have a lot of experience. They're able to narrow down the suspects very quickly. You don't see any mistakes in the investigation at this point. And I always, in these types of homicides in a smaller type town, you need experienced detectives there as soon as possible. And this happened. New Britain was involved, obviously very experienced homicide detectives there as well. So all the interviews they did, everything they seemed to follow, everything that a prosecutor would want them to follow in this situation. And again, we're able to identify the 3 suspects and make 3 very quick arrests.
The mayor of New Britain, Aaron Stewart, had said that, you know, our hearts go out in gratitude to the person who called police and tipped them off that they saw something strange with a man dumping a bag, which we now know that container was the body of Mimi. How important was that, and how is that going to play out into this investigation?
Well, look, if they never recovered a body, there'd be so many questions. Would anyone even know that the child was missing at that point? The person who called the police was actually able to get a picture of the car, and I believe the license plate as well, and that was great information to give to, I mean, as a detective, that's a home run. You have just a huge lead into that case right from the get-go. So the solvability factors were strong for the detectives early on.
Yeah, and Sam, what did you uncover in that part as we all found out, you know, just this shocking case happening right here in Connecticut?
So according to the warrants, it's actually Nanita's girlfriend at the time, because apparently he was not seeing Carla Garcia anymore. His girlfriend at the time, she told friends what had happened the night she was with Nanita and he dropped off this container. She said Nanita at one point, maybe it was a few days before police found Jacqueline's remains on October 8th, so it might have been like September 29th or so. She says Nanita picked her up. He said he had to run an errand for his ex, Carla Garcia. She says it involved a container. She said first they went to a nearby cemetery in New Britain, which we later found out Carla Garcia's mother is actually buried at. But apparently Nanita gets out of the car, figures this isn't the place. Then they go to this Clark Street home. She sees him put this container back there, and then she's telling friends that she thinks something weird is going on, that the container smelled. Those friends actually went out to Clark Street themselves and investigated. One of the friends said she didn't go near the container. A male friend actually picked a blanket up out of the container and saw the remains, and that's when they called police. So all three of them, I guess you can speak to this, all three of them really did the right thing, and they could have stayed silent, but they didn't.
In any homicide, you want that witness that is not biased or involved in the investigation to help out, and obviously they came forward and did the right thing. They'll be called upon likely early on in the trial to testify as well.
And both mother and mother's boyfriend locked up, accused of murder, and then we have the aunt accused on lesser charges. So how does it go from here as far as the investigation to fill in the blanks? And do you expect that police and investigators will use one against the other? And what do we expect from here on out?
So you have three different statements on what had happened, and all three of the suspects are trying to distance themselves in the statements from the actual crime, which is completely predictable. But at this point, it was certainly enough to charge the two with murder. They're all separated. They will have no opportunity to talk to each other to get their stories straight at this point. They're being monitored while they're in prison. Any phone calls they make, it's not out of the question for prison to put an informant type of cellmate in with any of the suspects and to try to elicit some sort of statement from the suspects that could be used against them as well. That's not unheard of in these types of situations. So they have a lot of statements to kind of get through, but if you read them, and I looked at them, the mother, Carla, really seems to just contradict herself and lie on top of lie on top of lie, which is always a pretty strong indication of guilt.
And Sam, based on what everyone, the basic question everyone at home would want to watch is, how could anyone do this? How could a mother starve her own children? Is there evidence of mental illness? Were they on drugs? Or is there anything that points to a why?
There's nothing that necessarily points to a why. We have heard stories from some of Carla Garcia's family members that she was also raised in a bad situation. It could be that sort of cycle. But I think what was so remarkable to me watching this video is just how chatty Carla Garcia was. And maybe that speaks to how well the New Britain police officers did their job, because we know from the warrant, when she showed up in front of the Tremont house and that big crowd was there, she immediately went up to the police officers for help. And they said, we're not arresting you, but we'll take you into custody. We'll keep you safe. And they brought her back to the New Britain Police Department, which is the video that you saw. And then those two officers kept her talking. And she volunteered a lot of information. She definitely seemed to be in denial that that crowd was there for her and that she had done something. And that we also heard her, freely talk about the fact that she had 5 children, including Jacqueline. But she didn't really hesitate to talk to these officers, and they kept her talking. And the whole time, you didn't see it there, but multiple times the officer behind the desk reminded her, you're not under arrest. You're free to leave. And at one point she actually goes, I am? And he goes, yeah. And she goes, no, I'll stay and talk. And then she went upstairs and talked, and she didn't have a lawyer. She actually talked to them both on the 8th and the 9th without a lawyer.
So is that all strategy? Is that all admissible? And what do you take as an interrogator, watching her mannerisms, watching her?
Well, as a homicide investigator, I don't want anyone talking to my suspects. I don't want the cops talking to them ahead of time or anything like that. But these cops at the front desk did a fine job, and nothing, I don't think, was compromised at all. That's just kind of something when someone comes into custody, you tell the uniformed cops, don't bring anything up. We want to approach the interview with the suspect from a certain direction. But that was organic, and there's not a lot you can do. And you saw when they arrested Anita too, there was some organic conversation there as well. All of that will be used, obviously, in the future when they did the interviews. They used it to determine, honesty and really to double back down on her for being dishonest. So I don't love that situation, but it was organic, and the cops did a good job there.
So as you look and you see the situation right now, based on your experience, and of course we don't know yet, what happened here as far as this murder of this little girl? Was it the mother? Was it Anita? As you look at the facts, is there anything that you can piece together based on your opinions?
Well, as you said, this type of abuse is a learned behavior almost all the time. So you look at what all three of the suspects went through when they were children. That's where, as a detective, I would start my interview with the suspect based on those type of things and what they went through as leading up to this.
Not an excuse, but an explanation.
Right. No, it's certainly not an excuse. Mental illness, clearly, anytime a mother starves a child, and we've seen it before, there's mental illness. And it's just so sad to see it end up like this and not get any help. And again, I'm not excusing it at all, but there's a level of mental illness here, and I would almost guarantee a learned behavior from the mother's childhood as well.
And there definitely seemed to be some sort of history of that within the family. Jacqueline Garcia, the aunt herself, had actually just gotten out of prison in August 2025 after serving 8.5 months in prison for child abuse of her own child. A few years before that, and it took a while to prosecute the case and get her to court, she had been accused and later convicted of abusing her then 11-month-old baby. This baby had a lot of fractures, both healed and current.
Right.
And at the time, this was like 2022, February 2022, she lost custody of both the 11-month-old and a 2-year-old she had at the time, and she has never gotten custody of them back. And then we also know that DCF was not only involved with Jacqueline Garcia, that part of the family, they'd also been involved with Carla Garcia before. There had been calls for attempted alleged abuse or neglect against Jacqueline. There have been calls for alleged abuse and neglect with her little sister. And the most recent call of that came in January 2025. We do know, according to DCF, from November 2022 to January 2025, they didn't have any calls related to that family. And that was the time we do know that Jacqueline allegedly died, and we do know she was taken out of school at that time. But we do know a call involving her little sister came in January 2025. And at the time, they checked those allegations, nothing came of it. But we are told that the DCF worker did ask to speak to Jacqueline too, because I assume they knew the history with Jacqueline. And Carla Garcia said, oh, she's being homeschooled, she's staying with somebody else right now. And Carla actually had some other person come on a Zoom call, a video call, and pretend to be Jacqueline.
And pretend to be her.
And pretend to be Jacqueline.
So that's a whole nother thing, but as Connecticut debates its homeschooling laws, of which are very liberal. We don't have a lot of restrictions at all. I mean, we now have the second case. We have the man in Waterbury who was held captive and was homeschooled. This, Jacqueline. I mean, is it, in your opinion, as a homicide investigator, that when the schools are out of it or when any public people are out of it, that these children are in danger? Or how do you prevent something like this?
Well, you don't want to cast a negative light on homeschooling. Certainly not. These are absolute anomalies that you mentioned here, but there are lessons learned, and there are some indications, as she mentioned, with that history of abuse and then the homeschooling. So you're starting to see that, the history of abuse and then them pulling the child out of public view is something that I'm sure DCF's going to start taking it based on these two high-profile cases and others, that they're going to really start taking a harder look on how they approach, especially when there's a previous history of abuse.
Right, most of the time when you think of homeschooling, it's often families who are very involved, or they have a D1 athlete that wants to aspire, and there's all these extra things. But in this case, if you take someone out of the mandatory report, and that homeschooling certainly allowed this little girl to be lost.
Well, there's also a gap too in that, and this is something I looked into when I was reporting on the Kimberly Sullivan case. So we do know DCF said they got no reports from November 2022 to January 2025. She was taken out of school in August 2024. The school does not have to let DCF know that they are withdrawing the child, because being homeschooled themselves is not a reason to call DCF. And there's also a chance, and we haven't gotten these answers. I asked the New Britain School District. They, per law, they don't have to comment because it's involving child confidentiality laws. I asked them, did you know DCF had ever been involved with this family? Because if they had, you would think that that would give them some impetus to call DCF and say she's being withdrawn. I don't know that answer, but I do know that in state law, DCF doesn't have to necessarily let a school district know that they're investigating a parent. So if the school doesn't come from the call, the New Britain School District might not have ever known DCF was ever involved with the Garcia family. So therefore, there's no red flag for them when Garcia pulls Jacqueline out of school.
Final thoughts about where we go from here?
It'll be interesting as to what happens in the trial in regards to if they can get one person to flip and be definitively honest. There are facts and circumstances known only to these suspects as to what happened. And the police officers will be able to determine if someone's being honest or not, if they can get one of them to flip on the others. And I think that there's a high probability of that.
We'll continue to watch and investigate. Thank you both, Chief Foley, Sam Smink. Thank you and thank you at home for tuning in for this WFSB Plus exclusive, Little Girl Lost. What happened to Jacqueline Torres-Garcia? You can check out our other upcoming streaming specials as we continue to follow this case.